Bleed for This is a new boxing film based on a true story, starring Miles Teller as the Tasmanian Devil and Aaron Eckhart as his coach. And I had a lot of fun with this film. It is honestly one of my favorite boxing films I've seen. You know, it's especially one that is based on a true story.
Tasmanian Devil is in Kent County Memorial Hospital tonight with a fractured neck.
If you let me do the fusion, I can guarantee you'll be able to walk again.
I need to be able to fight again.
Me.
And not fusing my neck.
While it is a true story, it is so interesting that it didn't really need to be exaggerated at all. You know, the actual story that happened is an amazing, inspiring story, where the boxer in the prime of his career, he is right after winning his belt, he is in a car accident and he breaks his neck. So the story follows this Italian-American boxer nicknamed Paz, or Tasmanian Devil. At the start of the movie, he is fighting at 140 pounds, even though his walking around weight is 154. And he is having a streak of losses, and his career is on a downturn, and his promoter doesn't really want to give him another fight. And that's one thing I liked, about the film, is that there's multiple levels to the story. Like, there's multiple acts to it. Because a lot of times, in the sports, and especially boxing movies, pretty much have a generic formula that they follow, where they're on top of the world, and or they're unknown, and they build up, and they get a big fight, and then they usually fail, or something horrible happens to them, and then they have to build themselves up back again and fight again, and they win, or they lose a close decision, or something like that. It's been done over and over. And this is slightly different because he has multiple different periods in his life that follows. And in the beginning, like, he's fighting at a much lower weight class than he should be. And he's having a lot of trouble making weight. And even when he does make weight, he is much weaker and slower, and just not as good as a fighter if he was fighting at a higher weight class. And that's something I see, especially in mixed martial arts, that I'm a big fan. And recently they've been changing the rules where too many fighters were going a lower weight class than they should be, and I see some fighters that were lower and then went much higher, and they're so much better after that. And this is true for him too. So at this turning point in his career, he's hooked up with Aaron Eckhart, who plays the trainer, and he was previously Mike Tyson's trainer, and he's also kind of down on his luck, an alcoholic, and really he needs the win as much as Miles Teller does, or Paz does. And they kind of get together, and he tells them, that tells him to jump up 2 weight classes to his natural weight, which is like junior middleweight, I believe, 154. And he fights, and he is like the best he's ever looked, and he knocks out the guy. And I'm doing slight spoilers. Well, I think it's tough to talk about a true story when a lot of people may not know that much about them, but the stuff's out there. So I'm not going to do too much about what exactly happens, but I'll introduce it, So, and when he's on top of the world, he gets in a car accident, and his one of the vertebrae in his neck is broken. And the doctors want to perform a spinal fusion, which would guarantee that he'd be able to walk with no problems. But the problem is, if he does that, he will absolutely never be able to box. But the other procedure, where they'll put a halo around his head and will drill like screws into his skull at 4 points and have it connect to a stabilizing bar and where his chest, and he has to wear that for 6 months. And with that, you're really relying on the body to heal itself. But if you have like a wrong bump or a fall or anything wrong happens, the break will continue, and it may sever the spinal cord. It means that he'll never be able to walk again, let alone box. But for him, for Paz, boxing is his life, and he says that no matter what, he will box again. So, that's kind of the second act of the film. Is him, like, his training even though he's in a neck brace. And this probably, the best part of the film is probably there. And it's kind of interesting that even when I went to the film, I thought that would be more of the film. And then a lot more would be him, like, training for the last fight or whatever. But a large portion of the movie is before that. Like, almost half of the movie is before that. And I think that I really like that, because you got to see his character, and you got to see who this guy is. And you got to see his highs and his lows, like, before the act that everyone kind of knows him for happened. And once that did happen, like, it's really inspiring and really, like, heartfelt. Like, I really felt for the guy. I mean, it's really well done, well acted, and well written, even though it's a true story. One thing I did notice, though, is that the movie is relatively long, coming in at just at under 2 hours. And it felt like once they got to the third act, like after, like before the big fight or whatever, it felt a little rushed. I felt that, okay, movie's going long, we need to get to the point. And I would have loved to see more training for the big fight, or maybe even a little bit more after. Because, like, when I looked afterwards, I looked more at his Wikipedia page and some videos about him, and he's still alive, and his career went on, and a pretty great career. I mean, may not like at the top of the names, but like he's never been knocked out like Ali, and he has, I think, 50 wins and 10 losses or something like that. So, I mean, that's a great career. And I like that they finished it right at the peak, right at a great moment. But I would have loved to see a little bit more, like in some of the earlier fights, there's more setup, like, for these guys, like, for who he's fighting. But for the big fight at the end, like, they don't really talk much about who he is. And this is like I think early 90s, maybe a little bit in the late 80s. And a lot of the boxers that I'm not that familiar with. And I doubt a lot of other people would be too, either, and unless they're, big followers of the sport. I really love the camaraderie of the two characters that Miles Teller and Aaron Eckhart play. And you really believe that they're friends, and they're like coach and athlete. Like, they seem to really get along together well. And I really, the acting is excellent. And also, I love that he has the extended family around him, and they're all played really well. Especially his mother is played by Peg Bundy, and the dad is great too. And even the promoters that are kind of douchey, like, you see that they don't try to make them out like they're horrible people. They show, they are who they are. They don't think he's worth much anymore, so they want to use him as a throwaway fight to get their other guy into a unifying title fight. But then once he gets more media coverage about training with the broken neck and still in the halo, they think, oh, we can make some money from this. And it's like, they don't go after him too much, but they still show, yeah, they're kind of greedy, they're not great people, but it's realistic. That's one thing I like the most about the movie. There's so many times in sporting movie and boxing movies, they kind of amp everything up, and so it's almost a little bit unrealistic. And this, they really didn't. Well, of course, they didn't really have to, but it's an amazing story. But it felt really down to earth, and felt really real, and like, I really enjoyed the whole mood of the film. And also, I love how throughout the film they were interspersed with like real footage from in the past, especially like when he went on Jay Leno, and I think they actually like used clips from that on the old TVs, and it really mixed well, and I really enjoyed how it was edited. One thing I wasn't a big fan of was that there were multiple love interests in the story, and they never really gave too much time to him other than to show him naked every once in a while. And at first I thought they were the same woman, but then it's like, no, they're different. But they all kind of look similar. Like they have pretty brunettes, like skinny and a little tall. And like at one point, like I knew that, okay, well, yeah, she's different, but another one, and they didn't really focus on it too much. And I understand this. I mean, he's not a great guy. I mean, he has that personality of kind of megalomaniac. But I think, you have to have that kind of personality to be an athlete at that high of a level. You have to think you're the best, and you have to kind of have that braggadocio, to be a champion. But, I wish they would have been a little bit more like, or not have them all, but I don't know. It seemed like it could have been a little more time spent in that, like in his relationships. But it's kind of like a rotating door, and but maybe that's just how it was. And I really enjoyed the film, and I probably give it an 8.75 or maybe even a 9 out of 10. I really hope that more people go see it. Because right now, it only made like 2.3 million in the opening weekend, and it's just too bad. It's a really good movie. I absolutely love it, and I wish more people would see it. But they made a pretty poor choice of time to bring it out. Because right now, there are so many good movies in the theaters. And just coming out tomorrow before Thanksgiving, there were 4 more movies. And there's some other big movies that is just kind of getting lost among everything else. So thanks for watching. And I hope that you check the movie out, and maybe you'll like it, especially if you're a fan of sports films and boxing films in particular. But I mean, you don't have to. It's a good story, even if you're not a huge boxing fan. There's a really good story within, and really inspiring message about just like doing it. Like don't let people tell you no, or just go after what you want. And it's sometimes it seems really difficult, but at the end it's just simple. Just do it. So thanks again.